Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna adjust myself just a little bit before I shoot this video. Okay, this is video number 4 in the series about the drama going on with Tony. And like I said in the other 3 videos before I actually get the videos underway, well, yeah, I might be discussing some yucky stuff in this video. Just because, if you're the kind that gets offended or grossed out easy, do both of us a favor and kind of, when I start talking about the gross stuff, just fast forward on through, just because I don't need people crying about the fact, well, you were being gross in that video. I'm talking about medical stuff that's going on, and yeah, it's a bit on the icky side. You were warned and you'll live if you watch it all the way through, and don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, with that said out of the way, the next thing I want to talk about is, yes, I colored my hair on Monday. Okay, Sunday was May 14th, 2023, which is Mother's Day. That's the reason why I name it. And then Monday, I colored my hair. And speaking of Monday, part of the reason why I was coloring my hair and stuff and I stayed home was because they were transporting Tony from the Edgewood Hospital, where he's been since, a month ago, back to the Fort Thomas Hospital where this mess all started in the first place. And he's in a rehab at the Fort Thomas Hospital. And as a matter of fact, in about 12 hours at 2 p.m., I gotta have my happy hiney up there for a care team meeting about him. Today on the 18th. I'll tell you what. In case, I'm not gonna, like I said in the last video about him, I'm not gonna go in whole hog and detail what exactly happened to him last month in April. Because I go into full detail on that in the first couple of videos. But I will tell you, his foot has been draining. And you got to remember, he's got no toes on that foot. And I mean, that's, the gross part about all of it. And if you want to fast forward through this part, go ahead. But, if you watch, consider yourself warned. What it is his foot has been draining. Like, this foot, his right foot has been wrapped up this whole time since they took, his first, like, this middle toe off. His foot, I have to say, and this, just so y'all know what I've been seeing, is that ever since they took his toe off a month ago now, and it's been a month now, because like I said, today's May 18th, 2023. He was at this same hospital a month ago, and he still had, this toe, and the big toe. And he'd lost his middle toe. And then, like, they'd taken this toe off at that point. And they then, took him over to Edgewood, where he's been up until this past Monday for the malarkey with his heart. And that's where he was over in Edgewood when he lost the rest of the toes on his right foot. So now he's been no toes on right foot and, all the toes on his left one. Of course, it looks backwards probably on here. But, because I'm doing it my right and my left. So it's, his right foot, his right foot, left foot, if you're, whatever, but doesn't matter. Well, anyway, his right foot has been wrapped up this whole time since that surgery a month ago, back on April 16th, so it's been 32 days since this all started. As of Tuesday. It was, 30 days on Tuesday, which was May 16th. I'm sorry, I just had a lot of crazy running around. I've been eating pumpkin seeds on top of it too, just as an aside, not that that matters. But anyway, like I said, this past Monday, the 15th, Tony got transferred back over to Fort Thomas to start rehab. He and I had the conversation, on like Sunday. And I told him, I said, now, we're like, they kept saying, oh, we'll take him to rehab, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They're like, we'll take him to rehab, take him to rehab, take him to rehab. Finally, Monday, they up and transferred him back over to Fort Thomas to start doing his rehab. So, the last 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, he's been getting rehab, and he's rather salty about it. Yes, Tony is rather salty about it. Because, like I said, this whole foot's been wrapped up, and, they took all the toes off, and it was, down this way. Well, what it is he can't, he's having he's been in bed since this started 30 days ago. And, it's like he'll sit, like, Sunday, they got him up while I was there, and I saw this. They got him out of bed, and they stood him up, and they made him walk over to, like, the porta potty thing. And they parked his butt on it, and he went just a little bit. And he had a difficult time getting up off the toilet, and then they put his butt in the chair to make him sit up and eat. And he's been, and he whined the whole time, and I'm not bad-mouthing him, I love him, but he was like, this hurts, and, he was struggling and stuff. I mean, he's been bedridden for the whole month. What did he expect to have happen? I mean, he's struggling with it. So, I mean, it's, he's been bedridden for a whole month because he wasn't supposed to put any kind of pressure on his right foot. Well, now they're going to have to, it's been, like, his foot's healing up. The podiatrist unwrapped his foot, which, I'll tell you something. The one doctor says, do you want to see what the bottom of his foot looks like? I'm like, oh no, don't think so. I do not want to know. Okay, I accidentally got a hold of a picture, and I've said this in 2 of the last video, in, video 2 and 3. I saw what his foot looked like when he had, this toe and these two, and it was like, the top of his foot was, all like, cut up and blah, 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 and all that fun stuff. And I go into detail about that in one of the earlier the first 2 videos. And of course, in the last video, I talk about seeing his foot with no toes and everything sewed up, cut up, chopped up, messed up. I mean, it's just a whole lot of up. It's just wrong. And I was like, forget it. No thanks. I'm like, no, doctor, thank you. No thanks. I don't want to know. I don't want to see it. I don't care. I mean, like, I care, but I don't have an overwhelming urge to want to know. And, the doctor said that, he can gradually start putting a little bit of pressure on it to help him, because he's got to learn to stand up. And, they're trying to build up his left leg, so, like, he might be listing a little bit to the left here because, he's not supposed to put, like, they're going to have to gradually get him to where, like, he'll get strength in his left leg to where he can, like, okay, pull himself up with his left leg and then gently put weight on his right foot, and he's struggling with it, that and the fact that he's been bedridden for a whole month. He's, having problems pulling himself up with his arms to ease himself onto his left foot, to do left, right, to stand up on his feet. And, it's a struggle for him. I mean, it really is. And he was whining, this hurts. I'm like, honey, we had this conversation. I told you. We've been talking about it. I'm like, when you go to rehab and you start, like, they're going to make you sit up in a chair, a wheelchair, a regular chair, some kind of chair, and they're going to make you sit up in the chair, and they're going to make you, they're going to make you use not only your upper body strength to pull yourself up with, but they're going to make you use your legs too, because you're going to have to learn to stand and learn to eventually walk on your right foot with no toes on it. Because last time you walked, you had gangrene in your foot. And it's like your body's going to have to learn to go, okay, toes, no toes. And you're going to have to be able to go, okay, I can stand up on this and not keel over, or keel over one way or the other. I can, stand, like, get him to where he can stand up and be like, okay, I can do this. And then they're going to get him to where he's going to start walking. It's probably going to be another month at least. And, he's, with the way he's been whining around, it'll probably be by Labor Day by the time he finally pulls his head out of his butt. That's my whole thing is, that's the other thing that worries me. And, because I realize that I'm probably going to be sweating it off, because what it is, and this is the problem that Tony and I are having, and this is why I started that GoFundMe page last month, and I appreciate everybody that's given us money so far, but like I mentioned in at least the last video talking about him, this is the problem. We're going to, with him now in rehab and him struggling with it, he's not gone back to work yet, and it's been a month, and we're talking like another month or two at the bare minimum. I mean, it's like I just said, I'm going to be surprised if he, because Tony's being Tony. If you know him well enough, you know how he is. He has zero tolerance for pain. I mean, he will tell you that it's like, unlike him, I'm the kind of person that I have to be practically dying before you drag me to the doctor or the hospital or whatever. I have to be like 2 steps up from death. Because, I mean, it's like, for example, just as an aside, this will give you an idea of, I'm hard on Tony, but that's only because my parents raised me to be tougher than a one-eared alley cat. Like, 5 years ago, I got a double kidney infection, and I had a temperature of 102, and I was dying. Literally, I was at death's door, pretty much. Tony made me go to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 4 days. And I was salty, and I had an attitude the whole time. I mean, I was sick. I was really bad sick. They took me off of fluids and solids altogether, and I'm I was hooked up to an IV, and I was salty the whole time. I was like, I just was like, they go, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, and I want a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I was running my mouth at them, and they're like, yeah, and it's like, they were having problems getting blood out of me. Well, that's because I hadn't had any fluids. Like, I hadn't been permitted to have water. I wasn't allowed to imbibe anything. I mean, they had me hooked up through the IV, and everything was going through that. And I'll tell you what, they were pulling blood out from between my fingers. And I was extra salty about that. I threatened to bite the phlebotomist because that hurt. If you have never had blood pulled out from between your fingers, I'll tell you what, that hurt worse than the fact that I had a kidney infection. I was like, you asshole! I'm gonna bite you! I'm like, stop! And I couldn't help myself. I was literally in a world of hurt. I was just in pain. Because they were pulling it out from between the fingers of my right hand, like right here and right there. And it hurt. It was excruciating. And I got up and I was walking around after they let me have water. Or even when I was still on the IV drip, I was up walking around. I'm like, in fact, one of my bosses ended up down the hall from me. I'd walk in. It was funny. I had on pajamas, and underwear and everything. And I had one nurse chasing me, like, come back here, let me tie you up. And I'm like, no, I don't, because I was, I had on one of those hospital gowns that open up in the back. And my husband's like, I'm running around on my floor. They're like, you're mooning people. I'm like, I'm not mooning people. I have on pants. I had on pajama bottoms. I'm like, yeah. She looked at me and she says, so you really are in here? And I'm like, what's it look like to you? I'm sitting here hooked up to an IV, and I'm not dressed to go to work, clearly. I'm like, I have a kidney infection. And it's like, her nurse was walking in, and it's like, she then turned around, stuck her head back out. Hey, I found your patient. She's in here talking to this one. And Tony come in and look at me and be like, I'd be running amok on the, up there on that floor. And she's like, they're like, yeah, she's here. And the doctor looked at me, is there anything you want? I'm like, yeah, a glass of water. Can I please have a glass of water? And they're like, yeah, here. And they were pulling it away from me, slow down, you're going to get sick. I'm like, no, mine. And I was up, and I'm like, I don't care if I'm sick. And I looked at Tony and I'm like, so what? I have a kidney infection. I'll live. I'm like, I'm still here, aren't I? And he's like, I don't know about you. And then it's like, it's like, at that point, and I very firmly believe that that's what caused the infection, the crap in my legs. Because, after that, my legs started draining crap out of them. And that's what ended up putting me in the hospital the following year in 2019. And both my legs were draining infection. And I was I couldn't feel anything below my knees for 2 years. And I'd get up and I'd walk around. And Tony forgets that I went through that. And I had to learn to re-walk once they got the worst of the infection out of my legs. I still have both my legs from below the knees. And I looked at Tony and I'm like, I remember when I had to go through physical therapy after what all happened with my legs. And I remember it was just, it hurt. I'd get tired easy. And they realized that this was making me, I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And it's just, I'd be tired all the time. I'd get up and I'd try, I would make myself get out of the bed. And I would make myself walk or try to. And I'd stop at the nurse's station, especially if I was feeling lightheaded. Because my thought was, if I collapse right here in front of these nurses, hopefully they'll pick me up and, they'll deal with it. That's, one of them got mad. It's you need to shut up and go back to your room. And I just looked at her. I'm I wanted to say, lady, look, I'm stopping here because I'm resting. I was okay, but you're going to have to give me a minute because I'm tired. I have to stop and rest. They later moved me off the floor because I think that woman, that made them mad. Every time I walk to get my strength up, I'd stop there because I have to rest. I'm still that way now. Like, I walk so far and I have to stop and I have to rest. I walk so far some more and I choke on it. And I still have to stop and rest. Tony's going to have to go through that. And that's my thing. And I'm not saying that to be mean-spirited. It's like I looked at him and I said, sweetie, this is what we were talking about. I said, this is going to be hard. You know, I said, I didn't tell you this was going to be easy. I didn't say it would be painless. I'm like, you have to realize that this is going to be hard because you've been in the bed for a month. And now they're slowly easing you out of being bedridden for a month to sit you up and start rebuilding your strength. It's going to be physically hard on you. And I said, Tony, you're not going to get, I'm going to be patient with you, but it's like, you shouldn't be complaining unless you are just in god-awful pain. My threshold for pain is a lot higher than Tony's. I mean, it's just, I'm not saying that mean-spirited. Don't get that wrong. I mean, it's just, he's having a hard time with it. And he's still constipated. He went real big, a few days ago, and then he was having problems again. And then, he's having gastrointestinal issues now. Still. And I know I'm talking in circles, but one thing, and I did want to mention this, and I started talking about this earlier when I got sidetracked. I did want to talk about the fact that I want to thank all of you that have given on my GoFundMe page. Yes, that's, Tony and I have used that money to pay bills, put gas in the car so I can go see him every day. It's allowed me to be able to get something, some groceries so I can have something to eat, in between seeing him and stuff. It allowed us to keep the electric on here. Because, what was it, last week? One day last week I paid, with some of the money from the GoFundMe page, the electric bill. I also paid the internet bill, so this way, because I have to talk about this, the reason why we have to have the internet here, and I know I talked about this being an issue on this channel prior to now, and it's legitimately an issue here. The reason why Tony and I have to have the internet here at the house is because I may have a smartphone when this is what I'm shooting this video on right now, for example. But here's the thing. Even back when I had that old flip phone, and I know I've talked about this on this channel in a previous video, but even back in the day when I had those old pay-as-you-go flip phones, we would get 1 bar signal. It did not matter. It did not matter what kind of phone we had. And it's still an issue now where, I would have to walk out of this condo and walk down my street to the clubhouse parking lot just to be able to get a strong enough signal to call anybody or, do something beyond texting. And I don't want everybody and their sister to know my business. So we have Wi-Fi calling, fortunately, on our phones now. So that's why we have the internet, other than the fact that we have, some other internet-based things, but we have to have our Wi-Fi calling turned on our phone, just so I can make any phone calls. I mean, it allows me to make phone calls with it. And I mean, granted, I've talked about beating the pants off of it with, uploading videos like this one. Or, uploading photos to Shutterfly, for example. But, and it's for example, and this happened to me, in fact, this past Friday, our electric went out here. And like I had literally paid it like last Wednesday, our electric bill last Wednesday, and the electric went out on Friday because we had storms blow through here this past Friday on the 12th of May. You know, and it's just big flipping storm blows through, you know, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Takes out our electric. At this point, I got no phone calls in, no phone calls out. I was lucky I was able to get any text messages out because I had 1 bar signal on this phone. I am not kidding. And I'll tell you what was really bad was later on, I'd say probably about 5 o'clock. 4:45, 5 o'clock. Friday afternoon, the electric finally came all the way back on. Like, it came on for like 30 seconds at like 4:30 Friday afternoon and then went right back off. I'm like, you assholes. You know, but it did. It came right back on at like 4:45, 5 o'clock. And once the internet was back up and running, I had like 5 voicemails pop through because guess what? People were trying to call me and couldn't get through and went right to my voicemail. That's because I have no signal in here. And one of them was a doctor's office for me calling, just as an aside. I won't say what the doctor wanted. Actually, I'll tell you. It was a call reminder about a doctor's appointment that I've had coming up. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I couldn't even get this phone call. And it's a good thing that, you know, I didn't have an emergency here, or I would have been screwed, to be honest, because I would have had to have gone outside just to call 911 to get help. Years ago, this is an aside, years and years ago, back when we were transferring out from, you know, what was Cincinnati Bell Internet to Spectrum, which is what we have now. Spectrum is awesome, by the way, just as an aside. You know, they accidentally turned off, like we had gotten Spectrum, but we still had our landline at the time. You know, they left our, like, instead of turning our internet off with Cincinnati Bell and leave our phone line on, they turned off our phone and left the internet on. And I'm like, there's something wrong with you. I had to, and then my cell phone acted out to where I couldn't get any signal around here, and I had to drive all the way up to Kroger's on Martha Lane Collins Boulevard, pretty much, just to be able to make a phone call, to call them up and say, hey, y'all accidentally turned off my phone when you should have turned off my internet. You know, and they're like, oh, sorry. And I told them like what phone number and whatever, and like they hemmed and hawed and finally fixed it. You know, but that's why we have to have the internet. And then we have the HOA out here, who I have to also say, these people don't do for what we pay a month, which is $300 a month, almost, after fees and what have you. You know, they don't do their job. I mean, I still have to pay that every month too. So, you know, we've got, you know, June, July, and August of HOA fees, plus the fees for our phones coming up, and, you know, that alone is burning a hole in our pockets. You know, and like, the problem I have with like the HOA people is, like I said, we pay them basically $300 a month. And like back at Christmas of last year of 22, when it snowed real bad here, I was stuck at home for 4 days because our front porch step was a solid sheet of ice. And like I said earlier in this video, and I said in the other videos, I have problems with my legs, and I don't walk very good because of my, with what all happened in my legs back in 2018 and 2019. It's still an issue. And they did not, the HOA people, we're paying them $300 a month, and they did not show up until, I think Christmas was a Saturday and Sunday. Well, they didn't show up until the following Friday, when the stuff was already starting to melt, to dig us out. And I'm like, what's the point of that? Why are you just now? It's like, I don't understand you people. It's like, y'all, and it's like, I even took pictures out my front door of our of here. And I emailed our HOA people, and I'm like, I want to know why we're not getting dug out. What are you all doing? I'm like, why are we paying you $300 a month if you all can't even show up and do your jobs? What are we paying you for if you can't even do this? And it's like, what was ironic, was the fact that, the lady that was responsible for the community that we're paying the $300 to, still had her away message on for Labor Day. And I'll tell you something. I mean, and this lady, and I mentioned this in a video that I shot not January this year, but of January of last year of 22, that, she can be that woman could be rather snotty. And because it's like I shot a whole video about an issue I had where I had to email her, and I was like, could you, ask her. I was asking her about something with the HOA, and she was snotty to me about it. And I'm like, is it necessary for you to be rude to me? I'm just emailing you to ask a question. Because I had a question about something with the HOA, and she was rude. Well, the lady now that has taken her place has taken over since January of this year of 23, she's been okay with me. She hasn't been rude or anything. And the assistant's been okay with me too. But anyway, like I said, I figure Tony's probably, going to be out for another, till I'd figure probably Labor Day. So that's June, July, August, September. Because the stuff's due at on the first of the month, regardless of if it's a holiday or not. So, 300 times 4 is $1,200. So that's $1,200 right there. And then our phone bill, which is another $300. So that's another $1,200. And if you're wondering why our phone bill is so expensive, it's just the fees and everything involved. And then the internet and the electric and our utilities and stuff. Our utilities, thankfully, are under $100 a piece. So the electric is $100. And the water and sewage is 80, I think, maybe. So that, it's we're talking, a few $100. And now the medical bills are rolling in too. As a matter of fact, I've got another, 2 came in today, and that one was, those 2 were $200. And then I have another 2 that's come in that's, another 5. I mean, it's burning us up. So, with the other 3 videos, and I hate having to air my laundry on YouTube, but, what it is we really, I mean, when I said we need the money, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not even joking. And then we need, money for obviously gas and groceries. And I try to not go overboard with that, So if you could, and I am going to include the link for the GoFundMe on this video's description, like I have with the other three. Tony and I would really genuinely appreciate it if you could give. Or, even in the other thing, and I forgot to mention this in the other one, and I just thought of it. If you could also please share that GoFundMe and, ask folks to give, because we need the help. I mean, I'm not pulling your legs, people. I mean, we really need the help. Because I figure, like I said, Tony will probably be out until our anniversary in September. And I don't want us to be, or I don't want me to be sitting here in the dark with no electric and no running water and the HOA coming after us and no way for them to get a hold of us because, as I mentioned in another video, we don't have a landline anymore. We haven't had one for, oh good Lord, like at least 10 years probably. And I need this cell phone for them to be able to get a hold of me or me to be able to get a hold of Tony or somebody in case there's an emergency. So, we need help on that end. And we do appreciate whatever you can give, but please, please, please help us out here because we're drowning, okay? And I do know one other thing because I did talk to the lady at the hospital to try to get, Tony's bills covered. It so far outside of the, $500, $600 that we already owe, I already know that it's already north of $4,000 already. And it's going to keep going up because he's in rehab now, like I mentioned earlier on in this video. And, we're also going to have a care meeting later today around 2 p.m. on May 18th, 2023. And, I've tried to get him hooked up on my insurance, which it is what it is. Well, but I doubt that it'll happen. Or if it does I hope it does happen. But otherwise, we're we're in a lot of trouble. So if you could, folks, praying for him, we appreciate that. But we need the money worse. A lot worse, okay? So if you could, click on the GoFundMe page included on the link for this video. In the links for this video. And I want to also throw the link for my book on Barnes & Noble on there too. And, I mentioned this in another video as well about my book on Barnes & Noble. If you want, you can also call your local Barnes & Noble store and order a copy of my book to be sent there, and you pay for it. Do me a favor. We need the GoFundMe more. We need that one first. And I mentioned this in the other video, at least, in video 3. We need the GoFundMe covered for more. But, I do appreciate it if you go buy en masse for my Barnes & Noble book or get on Amazon and find it. You can, if you look the link up on Barnes & Noble, it'll give you the barcode and whatever. And, you can, buy multiple copies on Amazon too if you want. And if for anybody watching, if you happen to see this video and you happen to live overseas in like the United Kingdom or Australia or Germany or somewhere in Africa, like South Africa, Egypt, whatever, yes, my book is being sold internationally. And yes, you can buy copies. You can go on Amazon and get it that way. And my publisher will send it to you. Because I can tell you for a fact, because I did see recently in the last couple of weeks, my sales report for the first 3 months of the year, and copies of my book have been bought in Australia and the United Kingdom. So anybody in Germany or France or South Africa or Egypt or the Sudan or wherever, Spain, Portugal, Australia, the Singapore, Japan, whatever, if you want to buy a copy of my book, please do. And buy multiples, because I'd appreciate it. And, it is also available on, iTunes and Nook and Google Play and Kindle and whatnot. And buy it that way, too. Well, anyway, please keep Tony in your thoughts, and please give to that GoFundMe page, okay? Thanks for watching, and have a good evening. Bye.